is Jane Pauley.
For her fans, it's no mystery why Pauley Perrette is a star of the hit series NCIS.
Pauley Perrette wasn't just a TV star. She was a phenomenon in the heartbeat of NCIS. Yet most never realized that her exit from the show wasn't a career move. It was a desperate act of survival. Behind the scenes, Pauley was caught in a disturbing ordeal with one powerful colleague that left her scarred, shaken, and in therapy. Turns out that the real reason why she left the show and retired altogether is far more disturbing than anyone could have predicted: becoming Abby Sciuto. When millions tuned in to watch NCIS, one character stood out from the very first season. Abby Sciuto, with her jet-black pigtails, spiked chokers, and platform boots, was unlike anything primetime television had seen in a forensic scientist. She was the heartbeat of the team, combining dark alternative style with a surprisingly warm and joyful energy that resonated deeply with viewers. Abby inspired countless young women to pursue science careers, to embrace their quirks, and to realize that being different was a strength. But while audiences saw a vibrant, untouchable character on screen, Pauley Perrette, the actress behind Abby, was navigating a disturbing situation behind the cameras that would eventually overshadow her celebrated run on the series. Pauley Perrette was born on March 27, 1969, in New Orleans, Louisiana, and her childhood was marked by constant movement across the southern United States. She lived in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina, never settling for long in one place. By her teenage years, Pauley had lived in so many different towns that change became a constant. Growing up in this shifting environment made her resilient and independent, qualities that would later help her survive the demanding world of Hollywood. Even as a young girl, Pauley was fascinated by crime and justice. While other kids were focused on cartoons and playground games, she found herself drawn to true crime stories, law enforcement, and the psychology behind criminal behavior. That curiosity carried into her education. She studied criminal justice at Valdosta State University in Georgia, with one clear ambition: to work for the FBI. But life took an unexpected turn. While bartending in New York to support herself and pay for school, Pauley overheard a conversation that changed the course of her life. A fellow bartender casually mentioned earning $3,000 from a commercial. At the time, Pauley was broke, working multiple jobs and trying to fund her education. That number sounded life-changing, and out of pure practicality, she decided to give acting a chance. But what began as a side pursuit to cover bills eventually became a gateway into an entirely different career. Her early work included commercials for major brands like Volkswagen and Sprint. She also appeared in music videos and started to land small television roles. Each project gave her more visibility and confidence, and though she hadn't planned on an entertainment career, her unique presence made her stand out. Unlike many aspiring actors trying to fit into Hollywood's polished mold, Pauley carried a raw authenticity that casting directors remembered. Pauley's big break came in 2003 when she was cast as Abby Sciuto on NCIS. The show's creator, Don Bellisario, wanted a character who would break the mold of traditional forensic scientists on television. Instead of a quiet background analyst, he wanted Abby to be bold, unconventional, and completely unforgettable. Bellisario wanted to challenge stereotypes, proving that someone could embrace alternative fashion, tattoos, and gothic style while still being one of the smartest people in the room. Pauley brought Abby to life with a mix of high energy, sharp intelligence, and genuine warmth. This combination created something rare, a television character that made being different not only acceptable but aspirational. Viewers across the world connected with Abby, and she suddenly became a role model who proved you could excel in science while staying true to your individuality. Young women were so inspired by her portrayal that they began pursuing careers in STEM fields, citing Abby as their influence. Pauley recognized this ripple effect and decided to give back in a meaningful way. She created a scholarship fund for girls entering math and science programs, turning her character's influence into real-world opportunities. As NCIS grew into a global powerhouse, Abby became one of its most beloved figures. The show dominated ratings for years, and for 8 consecutive seasons it was the most watched drama worldwide. Audiences tuned in to see Abby's energy, her loyalty to her team, and her one-of-a-kind presence in the lab. When Pauley eventually decided to leave the show in 2018, her final episode drew nearly 15 million viewers, one of the highest-rated episodes of that entire season. She received 3 People's Choice Award nominations during her run, and at one point, she was recognized as the most popular actress on U.S. primetime television. For nearly 15 years, Pauley Perrette carried Abby Sciuto into living rooms across the globe. She transformed a supporting forensic scientist role into one of the most recognizable characters in television history. However, behind the scenes, her time on that set was marked by shadows that the audience never saw. While Abby represented joy and empowerment to millions, the actress portraying her was quietly enduring an environment that was far from safe. And as NCIS soared in popularity, Pauley Perrette's personal story took a darker turn that would eventually spill into headlines and spark conversations about safety, workplace culture, and the hidden cost of long-running success. The dark side of NCIS. On screen, NCIS looked like a perfect machine. Each character had their place. The chemistry appeared effortless, and the series gave the impression of a tightly bonded team solving crimes with precision and humor. Yet behind the scenes, the reality of the set was far more complicated. Stories of conflicts, creative battles, and sudden departures leaked, revealing another side of television's most watched drama. The first public sign that the perfect surface of NCIS was cracking came in 2013, when Cote de Pablo, who played Ziva David, abruptly announced her departure from the show. The news shocked both the audience and her fellow cast members. Ziva was one of the most popular characters on the series, and her chemistry with Michael Weatherly's Tony DiNozzo was central to the show's success. Cote later explained that her decision was rooted in frustration over the direction of her character. She described the scripts as lacking depth and said she felt her role was no longer being treated with respect. In the aftermath of her departure, reports surfaced of friction between Pauley Perrette and Cote de Pablo. The two actresses allegedly clashed over tweets and public comments, a reminder that even among stars who worked together for years, the public spotlight could amplify disagreements. Their interactions became a topic of speculation for fans of the show, and while both women tried to remain professional, the tension added to the growing sense that the series carried some hidden fractures. Another controversy surrounding the show erupted when Sasha Alexander, who played Caitlin Todd in the first 2 seasons, also left under similar circumstances. In interviews, she explained that the schedule for NCIS was overwhelming. Filming a network procedural required long hours and relentless workdays, and she eventually decided that the pace was unsustainable. Her departure in Season 2 forced the writers to create one of the most shocking early storylines, killing off Caitlin Todd in a dramatic finale. But while fans were devastated, Sasha made it clear that she had stepped away for her own well-being, showing just how demanding the series was for those behind it. Speaking about her decision in a later interview, she said, "People don't realize that on a network show you make 24 episodes a year. That's 10.5 months a year, 17 hours a day. It's hardcore. I really firmly believe in my heart that I would not be where I am today, happily married with 2 kids, doing things creatively that I want, if I had stayed. I didn't want to wake up and be in my 40s and go, oh my gosh." But people don't understand. To make matters worse, even at the top of the show's production, turmoil was brewing. Don Bellisario, the creator of NCIS and the mind behind Abby Sciuto's character, was pushed out after reported disputes with Mark Harmon. Insider reports revealed that Harmon and Bellisario clashed repeatedly over the show's direction and over scheduling practices that made the set difficult to manage. It got so bad that Bellisario eventually left the series. And although NCIS continued under new leadership, the shakeup contributed to the internal conflict that impacted the show. While the audiences fell in love with the show, the cast and crew were navigating creative battles, personal conflicts, and the toll of constant work. And although the series continued to dominate ratings, the individual struggles of its stars began to surface more often. Cast members' struggles. For many viewers, the world of NCIS looked lighthearted and engaging, filled with witty dialogue and close friendships. Yet for the cast, years of long hours, demanding schedules, and personal challenges created a much more complicated reality. Pauley Perrette herself spoke about how acting served as a kind of refuge from her own difficulties. She described stepping into the role of Abby as a form of escape and a way to channel her energy into someone who did not carry the same burdens she did in her personal life. Abby, with her boundless optimism and fearless personality, became a shield for Pauley, giving her space to temporarily distance herself from her own life problems. When she eventually left NCIS, the separation from the character forced her to confront her own reality again. Pauley later admitted that therapy became an important part of her life after her departure from the show, allowing her to focus on authenticity, to build a life not defined by a fictional role, and to address challenges she had previously pushed aside while immersed in the show. On set, Pauley also showed a determination to push herself beyond her comfort zone. She reportedly disliked small enclosed spaces, something that could easily have been written around with body doubles or camera tricks. But Pauley refused to step aside, insisting on performing her own scenes, even when they required her to be in spaces that triggered her discomfort. This decision demonstrated the lengths she went to in order to honor the character and ensure the authenticity of Abby's presence on screen. It was a demanding choice, and while viewers may never have noticed the hidden effort, Pauley was deeply committed to her role. Apart from Pauley, several other cast members also faced their own struggles as well. Sean Murray, who played Timothy McGee, sparked public concern during later seasons when he began appearing noticeably thinner.
CBS for its 14th season next month. During downtime, original cast member Sean Murray's
Fans speculated about his health, with rumors spreading online that something was seriously wrong with him. However, Murray eventually addressed the concerns directly, explaining that his weight loss was the result of a health-conscious decision. He had chosen a cleaner diet and lifestyle changes, which led to his dramatic transformation. While his clarification brought some sort of reassurance to the fans, the incident also exposes how closely the personal lives of the cast were scrutinized and how quickly speculation could spiral into widespread worry. But Murray wasn't the only cast member who faced personal struggles. In 2015, Michael Weatherly, who played Tony Donazzo, was arrested and charged for driving under the influence. He ultimately pled no contest, a legal decision that allowed him to avoid a trial while still accepting the consequences of the charge. As part of the agreement, he was sentenced to 3 years of probation, required to complete a 3-month alcohol education program, and ordered to attend Mothers Against Drunk Driving classes. Weatherly's name reappeared in headlines once again when he was later accused of inappropriate behavior on the set of Bull, his new CBS series after leaving NCIS. CBS eventually settled the lawsuit, but the case brought renewed scrutiny to the culture surrounding long-running network productions. For many viewers, it was difficult to reconcile the charming, witty Donazzo they had watched for over a decade with the troubling behavior making news off-screen. That's not all. David McCallum, beloved for his role as Dr. Donald Ducky Mallard, also carried frustrations during his time on NCIS. When Cote de Pablo abruptly left the series in 2013, McCallum later admitted he felt a deep sense of anger. He confessed that Ziva David was not only an important character in the series, but also part of the close-knit ensemble that gave NCIS its identity. And so, her sudden departure, without what he felt was adequate explanation, created a sense of betrayal for him. McCallum was outspoken about his feelings and about the emotional toll such unexpected changes could take on longtime cast members who had dedicated years of their careers to the series. In an interview, he confessed, "It was frustration and anger that someone should just walk out on us. I just don't understand how a leading lady in a show that's worldwide, who ostensibly wants to have a career as an actress, suddenly walks away from such a gem and just vanishes a couple of days before we start production." But while the personal struggles the cast members faced were significant, they would eventually be overshadowed by one of the most explosive conflicts ever to surface on the set: the fallout with Mark Harmon. For years, viewers of NCIS assumed that the friendship they saw on the screen meant the cast members shared a strong bond behind the cameras. For instance, Gibbs and Abby, played by Mark Harmon and Pauley Perrette, were often portrayed as having a unique relationship, with Gibbs acting as a protective mentor figure. But in reality, their off-screen dynamic unraveled into one of the most serious and public conflicts in the history of the show. The disturbing incident that triggered this breakdown occurred in 2016. Mark Harmon, who was not only the star of NCIS but also an executive producer, often brought his rescue dog to the set. Unfortunately, on one occasion, the dog injured a crew member so badly that they needed 15 stitches. This incident came as a complete shock to many of those working on the series. The atmosphere on a television set depends heavily on trust and safety, and for Pauley Perrette, this incident crossed a line. She believed that the dog was a risk to the crew and immediately asked that it be removed from the set to avoid further incidents. However, Harmon reportedly continued to bring the dog on set, despite the concerns Pauley had raised. And this decision immediately created an environment of tension between the two actors. Pauley saw the dog's continued presence on set as a serious danger to both her own safety and that of her colleagues. To her, it wasn't about disliking an animal. It was about workplace security and protecting people from being hurt again. She felt it showed a disregard for the well-being of others, and the conflict quickly grew into one of the most talked-about disputes in the show's history. As things got worse, Pauley decided she had to take official action. She asked for her contract to include a clause that guaranteed she would never have to film with Mark Harmon again. The producers agreed, and from that point on, every appearance had to be carefully planned so the two were never in the same place at the same time. By her final season, their last shared moment wasn't even real. It was reportedly pieced together through editing. On screen, it looked like Abby and Gibbs were standing side by side, but in truth, the actors had been filmed separately, showing just how far their fallout had gone. But Pauley's worries about Mark Harmon didn't stay behind closed doors. After she left the show, she spoke out publicly in a series of tweets that shocked fans. In one, Pauley admitted she was so terrified of Harmon that she had nightmares about him hurting her. These weren't throwaway comments. Pauley made it clear that she was deeply shaken by the incident, and coming from someone who had carried one of television's most beloved roles for 15 years, her words hit hard and immediately made headlines. But Pauley didn't stop at speaking out. Reports later revealed that while on the show, she had filed 3 separate safety complaints with Human Resources, each one laying out her concerns in detail. Filing complaints at that level of a major network production isn't something done lightly, and Pauley wanted everything officially documented. This wasn't a simple clash between co-stars. It had become a fight for Pauley's safety and peace of mind. The situation eventually reached CBS executives, who became involved in addressing the dispute. However, the network faced a complicated problem. On one hand, NCIS was one of the most valuable properties on television, with Harmon as both its face and its anchor. On the other, Pauley was a central figure whose departure could disrupt the show's future. And after extensive behind-the-scenes handling, CBS announced that the matter had been resolved. Reports later confirmed that a settlement had been reached, bringing the formal conflict to an end. The details of the settlement were not made public, but it marked the conclusion of an ordeal that had deeply fractured one of television's most successful productions. The news of the fallout between Pauley and Harmon came as a shock to many fans. The idea that these two actors, whose bond had been one of the emotional foundations of NCIS, had actors behind them who could not even film together, added a new and unsettling dimension to the series. Sadly, the fallout with Mark Harmon was the breaking point in Pauley Perrette's relationship with the show that had defined her career. After years of dedication, awards, and fan devotion, Pauley said goodbye to NCIS in a way that felt unfinished, raising questions about how such a celebrated series could allow one of its most important stars to walk away under such circumstances. And while the situation was eventually resolved, it set the stage for Pauley's decision to leave the show. But this disturbing incident wasn't the only reason why Pauley said goodbye to NCIS, because behind the scenes, she was going through personal challenges and struggles that required her to step away from the cameras. Reasons for Pauley's retirement. When Pauley Perrette left NCIS in 2018, many assumed she might eventually return to television. After all, she had been one of the most recognizable faces on network drama for nearly 15 years. and actors with her level of popularity usually find new projects quickly. But in 2020, she made a public declaration that surprised fans and the entertainment industry alike. In July of that year, she tweeted, "Actually, I retired after NCIS, but broke was important. Beautiful. I did my last dance and I'm proud of it. Everyone that knows me knew I was retiring right after. I'm proud of my work. I love you guys. I am free." With those words, Pauley confirmed that her time in Hollywood had come to a definitive close. Her announcement referred to Broke, a short-lived CBS sitcom in which she starred after leaving NCIS. The show, which aired in 2020, was quite different from NCIS, which had defined her career. Broke gave her one final chance to close out her acting career on her own terms. And when the series ended after one season, she took it as her signal to step away for good. The reasons for her retirement were layered and deeply personal. One of her strongest motivations was a desire for authenticity and mental clarity. Pauley confessed that to her, acting was a way to escape into someone else's life, because while she played Abby, she did not have to deal with her own struggles. This sense of escape, however, came at a cost, because acting had slowly become an addictive way to avoid confronting reality. For years, she poured her energy into creating a character who was fearless, quirky, and strong, even when she herself was dealing with pain and uncertainty behind the scenes. When she eventually walked away from NCIS, the break gave her space to reflect on how much she had relied on that escape. By the time she finished Broke, she no longer wanted to lose herself in a fictional role. She wanted her life to be rooted in authenticity, not performance, and this search for clarity became her motivation to retire. While speaking about her decision to leave acting in an interview, she said, "I'm not ungrateful for the benefits that it gave to me, but I'm a different person now and I want to be here for it. The good and the bad and the painful. I want to be me all the time, and it takes a good amount of courage for me to say that to myself, but it's authentically how I feel." Even when new opportunities came her way, Pauley stood firm in her choice. She later revealed that she had turned down multiple offers to return to acting, making it clear that she would never again take on another role. For someone who had been in the spotlight for so long, the decision was unusual but definitive. She was not looking for a comeback or waiting for the right script. Instead, she had closed the door on acting completely. Her retirement marked the end of a remarkable career, but also the beginning of a new chapter that many fans do not know about. The question is, where is Pauley Perrette now? And what has life looked like after Hollywood? Where's Pauley now? After walking away from Hollywood, Pauley Perrette thought her toughest battles were behind her. But in 2021, everything changed when she suffered a massive stroke that nearly took her life. Pauley later explained that she woke up one morning unable to feel the right side of her body. The sudden loss of sensation was terrifying, and she was immediately rushed to the emergency room. The reality of losing control of her own body was devastating, and the experience forced her to confront her mortality in a way she had never experienced before. Recovery was long and difficult, but Pauley has been open about the things that carried her through the ordeal. Her rescue dog, Rosie, became her constant companion during the hardest days, offering emotional support and comfort when she felt at her weakest. Rosie was more than a pet. She was a lifeline and a source of unconditional love that reminded Pauley she was not alone in her fight to heal. Alongside the bond she shared with her dog, Pauley credits her faith and her practice of gratitude for helping her survive. She revealed that she was profoundly thankful to still be alive, especially because the stroke changed her outlook on life. Every day became a gift, and that sense of appreciation has shaped everything she has done since. Pauley also used the opportunity to create awareness about the dangers of a stroke. She once said, "I really want people to get educated about all signs of a stroke, especially that you can have one at any age. By knowing signs of a stroke, we can save ourselves and others." Even though she left acting behind, Pauley has continued to engage with meaningful projects. One of her most significant recent roles has been as an executive producer on Studio One Forever, a documentary chronicling the history of the iconic Los Angeles nightclub Studio One and its importance to the queer community. The project celebrates a landmark space in queer history, while highlighting broader struggles and triumphs of the movement. Through this role, Pauley has found a way to stay connected to storytelling without returning to acting. Financially, her years on NCIS ensured that she remained secure. As of 2025, her net worth is estimated at around $22 million. The wealth she accumulated from her career has given her freedom in retirement and the ability to support the causes closest to her heart. Yet Pauley has made it clear that her fortune is not something she plans to keep for herself. She has already shared her intentions to leave her entire estate to organizations she has championed throughout her life. These include animal shelters, which reflect her lifelong commitment to rescue work, and the Innocence Project, which works to overturn wrongful convictions through DNA testing and legal advocacy. Her philanthropic work has always been an integral part of who she is. Over the years, she has supported anti-bullying campaigns, spoken out for queer community rights, and dedicated herself to animal rescue. These causes remain central to her life in retirement, serving as a continuation of the compassion and advocacy she demonstrated even while she was still in the spotlight. For Pauley, giving back has never been about publicity, but about using her platform and her resources to make a tangible difference for people and communities who need support. Today, Pauley Perrette lives a quieter life than the one she led during her years on NCIS, but her story is far from over. She has survived serious health challenges, redirected her career into meaningful advocacy, and dedicated her legacy to causes that show her deepest values. While fans may no longer see her on television every week, her impact continues through the lives she inspires, the organizations she supports, and the stories she chooses to tell. Would you love to see Pauley Perrette make a comeback on television? Tell us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.